Hi, my name is Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net and you're watching Pat Metheny Untold. Pat Metheny is one of my favorite jazz guitarists. We can hear in a certain way that he's next in line in the tradition of Wes Montgomery and other mainstream jazz outfits that fizzled into other grooves in the late 60s, such as Miles Davis. Metheny is a case in point, so to speak, in so many areas of his musical career that it was difficult to know where to start making this video. Nevertheless, I present to you here Pat Metheny Untold, a short video where we'll put the chords, compositions, and licks aside to reflect on the bigger impacts. What can we learn from Pat Metheny, really? So let's get going. Jazz is an oral art form. Since the beginning of the 20th century, it has been passed on through word of mouth. Hey, how did that lick go again? Can you play this back to me more slowly, etc. So hence, the next generation picked up everything by ear, usually. And it continues to this day to a certain extent. If there's only one skill you should model onto Pat Metheny, I believe it should be this one, listening. As he said himself, listening is the key to all things good in music. Interestingly enough, Metheny learned to play the guitar mostly by imitating recordings of Wes Montgomery, noticeably the Smoking at a Half Note album, which is great, by the way, with the Wynton Kelly Trio. So he realized from an early age that it was crucial for him to memorize his favorite Wes albums, or at least have them imprinted in his musical mind. Yep, he was 14 at that time. So not so surprisingly, it's by listening to jazz that our man became hooked, and not because of the chords were hip or anything else. His brother brought home a copy of Miles Davis' 4 and More live recording, and it was the beginning of his musical career. So from a learning perspective, please understand that all that jazz is only in your mind at first. It's within your musical ears. And the musical output we create is only an approximation of all that beautiful music we dream of. Thus, from Metheny's perspective, music is not about the technicalities or virtuosity. It's about listening. Pat Metheny's music generally has a narrative quality. Sometimes it even feels as if it's a soundtrack for a movie that doesn't even exist. What is there to learn in this case? Developing on your ideas. You see, as jazz players, we're often caught up in scales, chords, progressions, and licks, while Metheny's music is rather based on developing smaller musical ideas for longer periods of time. So in summary, it's not the amount of information within the music that matters, but rather how that information is treated. With a little creativity and a lot of patience, we can take small fragments and make interesting works of art. And think about it when you catch yourself mid-solo next time, when you're going up or down that same scale again. There's always more meaningful things to do with a little fragment of this scale moving up or down, perhaps. Especially if it's congruent, with everything that comes before and after within your solo. So that's seeing music like architecture, like Pat does it. Even with his big ES-335 or Ibanez PM model hollow body guitars, Metheny is not a jazz purist, that's for sure. The most hardcore of mainstream jazzers often throw rocks at him for being too fusion or too commercial. I like how Pat refutes this argument by saying, our songs last 7 minutes on average. If we wanted to do it for commercial reasons, that would be the first thing we would change, right? But I'm paraphrasing here. Anyways, I believe we can all model our thoughts a little on how Pat sees this. We can never recreate an era. And listening to a live band in 2015 attempting to play like Charlie Parker did in the 50s, it only has us craving more from the original thing. And that's the beauty in jazz, in that it recreates itself all the time in order to remain genuine. So what's the lesson here? Well, don't try to play like it's 1959 and try to find your own voice. That's what jazz is in essence. All great jazz artists possess a completely distinguishable sonic signature, right? It's a good thing to understand the harmony, the history and the players and the songs and the tradition, and to respect the tradition, but your voice should prevail in the end. Metheny has taken his career to a different level when he started to write his own compositions for his first album, which you might already know. And he was still in his teens, but he realized that playing on standards was not enough to carry carry the musical ideas he wanted to put out in the world. And that's what we can call moving on from traditions. All right, one last one for the road. I understand that this would fall under rather the umbrella of general advice, but I believe it's worth the last minute of this video. Pat Metheny is extremely grateful for playing this music every night, which is something I believe we all aspire to. Every concert, he thinks to himself, this could be it, that could be the last thing, and as he's playing the tunes. That's what he said when he was interviewed. So this demonstrates a deep love of the music and not necessarily a search for excellence for selfish reasons, right? In fact, Metheny often says on the album, all the albums, the fame, the concerts, and the crowds are just a byproduct of his musical explorations. According to him, he would have done the same stuck on a desert island. So it's food for thoughts, right? And one last note on attitude and lifestyle. Pat Metheny is often labeled by his fellow musicians, including some legendary players, like a man with a focus that is out of the ordinary, right? Our man is well-spoken, direct, and possesses incredible work ethics. Making music is not enough. He has to produce it in an industrious fashion, to get it out into the world. So, all right. That's enough said for now. Thank you. My name is Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net, and this has been Pat Metheny Untold. Alright, just a little add on to this video that is not scripted, that is not really ready. I just wanted to share with you personally. I had a student at some point in Montreal who came for private lessons, and one of his friends had worked on the Orchestrion film production. So Orchestrion is this Pat Metheny album where Pat plays with robots. Basically, they're all machines playing different instruments, and he programmed everything. And it's interesting to hear. At least it's like a piano roll, but version like 2005 or 2010. So, anyways, the camera guy, my student's friend that worked on the camera crew said that. Pat would show up, start playing the tunes, and it would start shooting, everything will be ready, and would play for like 6 hours straight, and then go to lunch and eat like a quick 15-20 minutes and come back and shoot more, and then that's it. So you'd expect the camera guy to go and talk, hey Pat, I really like your albums, no time for this. There was no way that he could go out of focus. So you imagine shooting a whole album in like one day in several takes. That's the kind of focus Metheny brings to his music. It's not just, rehearsals and slacking off and writing tunes and practicing it's always done with an incredible sense of purpose and focus. So I think we can all learn something from this. It's not part of this Untold series, but it's something that struck me as being, that's Pat. And that's one of the reasons why he had so much success and he changed the face of the music in his lifetime. All right, so for real now, I'm Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net. I'll see you next time.